This video is brought to you by Brilliant. Today, Ecuador announces a state of emergency, political unrest in Poland, and 2023 is found to be the hottest year on record. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Wednesday, the 10th of January 2024. Our main story today is that Ecuador is on the brink of civil war. Yesterday evening, President Daniel Noboa ordered the army to neutralize more than 20 drug gangs after a state-owned TV station was hijacked live on air by masked gunmen. Ecuador's president announced a 60-day state of internal armed conflict after a gang stormed the TV studio wielding guns and grenades and threatening to shoot presenters. Ecuador's national police immediately deployed specialist units to the TV studio, where 13 people were arrested. Earlier on Monday, President Noboa declared a state of emergency after a notorious drug lord escaped from a maximum security prison, and unrest broke out at several others. At least 10 people have been killed since then, at least 7 police officers kidnapped, and dozens of prison guards taken hostage, as violence spreads further into the streets. There were also unconfirmed reports of armed men entering a university in Guayaquil and looting in downtown Quito, as well as social media videos apparently showing the lynching of prison guards held hostage by inmates. Footage from the live TV broadcast showed one kidnapped policeman reading a statement that said, "You declared war, you will get war. You declared a state of emergency, we declare police, civilians and soldiers to be the spoils of war." In response, Noboa has targeted 22 named drug gangs, labelling them terror organisations, and has mobilised the Ecuadorian armed forces to carry out operations against them. Peru's Prime Minister also declared an emergency along his country's northern border with Ecuador, deploying a police force immediately to prevent any instability spilling over into the country. Over the last few years, drug-related violence has surged in Ecuador, a country that used to be known for being one of the safest in Latin America. The country's prisons have been beset by violence between rival gangs, often resulting in multiple homicides. Since 2016, Ecuador's homicide rate has soared by almost 500%, to a shocking 22 murders per 100,000 people. Noboa's war on drug gangs will be a test of the newly elected president's pledge to eliminate violent crime in Ecuador, but it's also likely to raise fears elsewhere. Ecuadorian gangs have been linked to violence between rival drug cartels involved in exporting cocaine to the US, in what's known as transnational organised crime. The US has said it is coordinating closely with Noboa and stands ready to provide assistance. There's more on the way, but be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to make the daily briefing part of your daily routine, or just search for us on your podcast app to listen along. Last night in Poland, a dramatic standoff between the populist Law and Justice Party that ruled for 8 years and the new pro-EU coalition. Polish police arrested the former Interior Minister Mariusz Kamiński and his close associate Deputy Interior Minister for abuse of power. An appeals court last December ruled that the two politicians should serve 2 years in prison for having overstepped authority in a case dating back to 2007. After the verdict was announced, they were stripped of their parliamentary mandate. However, the pair refused to recognise the verdict, as did the Law and Justice ally President Andrzej Duda, who pardoned them both in 2015. Duda insists that they remain legally elected MPs. The current Prime Minister argues otherwise. So on Monday evening, a court issued an arrest warrant for the pair. The two politicians took refuge for hours in the Poland presidential palace. Accusations were thrown everywhere. Kamiński accused the newly elected government of being a grim dictatorship, while Prime Minister Donald Tusk accused Duda of obstructing justice and attacking the rule of law. The two were finally arrested, and several hundred Law and Justice supporters demonstrated outside the palace in support of the two MPs, chanting "Shame" and "Free the political prisoners." The data is now in, and 2023 has been confirmed as the hottest year ever on record. On average, last year it was 1.48 degrees warmer than the long-term average before humans started burning fossil fuels. When we dig down into the specifics, we see that almost every day since July in 2023 saw a record being broken for high air temperature. Now, it should be noted that the exceptionally high temperatures are, at least in part, a symptom of last year's El Niño weather event. However, climate change is also a factor in this, and scientists are worried that last year's record temperatures could be a sign that we're on course to break key international climate targets. Additionally, the exceptionally high temperatures last year contributed to worsening extreme weather events, such as the wildfires across Canada and the US, and the droughts in Africa. It's not just high temperatures either that are cause for concern. Scientists also noted last year that Antarctic sea ice is mind-blowingly low, and that glaciers in North America and the Alps had gone through what's referred to as melt season. These have contributed to a sea level rise. We'll have to see whether 2024 continues this trend. Here in the UK, significant progress is being made in the ongoing post office scandal, an issue that began almost 2 decades ago and which saw a huge number of sub-postmasters falsely accused of theft and fraud. The problem was related to an issue with the Horizon accounting system, which made it appear as though there were shortfalls which, in reality, didn't exist. The scandal was recently dramatised in an ITV show which aired last week, called Mr. Bates vs. the Post Office. It has clearly captured the attention of the public and politicians, as some key developments have been made in its wake. Yesterday, the former head of the Post Office, Paula Venables, handed back her CBE after more than 1 million people signed a petition urging her to do so. The government has also announced today that a plan to help the victims is imminent. Asked about the specifics of the plan, Kevin Hollinrake, a business minister, couldn't give any more information, but claimed that the plan would likely be unveiled this week. Many sub-postmasters have waited years for their name to be cleared, and it's likely that the ITV show might end up being the reason that they finally achieve this. In the final uplifting story today, we discuss fossil fuels. Now, earlier in the episode, we discussed how last year was the hottest on record, and how this has had a negative impact globally. However, scientists also refer to 2023 as being the beginning of the end of the fossil fuel era. They believe that 2023 might be the year in which annual emissions reach a pinnacle before a terminal decline. More and more countries are beginning to transition away from fossil fuels, and more investment is going into green alternatives. It's hoped that if scientists are right about last year being the pinnacle, then we could be moving towards achieving net zero. Whether we do that quickly enough, though, is another question. As we step into 2024, many of us are contemplating our New Year's resolutions, always looking to improve ourselves and learn more about the world around us. And while our content is always a good starting point, a lot of stuff we talk about can seem pretty complicated, especially when we dive into analytics and detailed data. But luckily there's a fun and easy way to learn more, which also doesn't cost thousands of dollars or take years and years of schooling. That's because Brilliant is the best way to learn maths, data science and computer science interactively. And the good thing is, it doesn't take long to learn either. These complex topics are broken down into small but accessible chunks, designed around your busy schedule. Even just a few minutes a day can help you with accumulating new knowledge over time in a fun and engaging way. As time goes on, you'll also get used to that empowering feeling of learning too, because Brilliant isn't just about memorization and lectures. Brilliant teaches you by doing, using active learning techniques to teach you the principles behind otherwise quite complex subjects, and ensuring you actually understand what's going on. So whether you want to brush up on your basic maths skills, improve your employment prospects, or just have another New Year's resolution for 2024, you can check out everything Brilliant has to offer free for a full 30 days by going to brilliant.org/TLDR. Plus, the first 200 of you will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription. Thanks for your support.